guys, CATNAP here. Make sure you like the video and consider subscribing. And if you're seeing this message, comment this emoji. Okay, bye. Enjoy the video.
Okay. I love you, 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 love you,
How's it going, everybody? Slipa here, and today is finally the day that I show you how I made CATNAP, because everyone keeps asking how I made him and to make a DIY video, so I'm doing that. So let me start off by saying that this plush was by no means easy to make. This was probably one of the most challenging things I have ever created. This plush started out to be just a simple little CATNAP plush that I could use for a quick weekend video to get an upload out on Poppy Playtime Chapter 3, and quickly turned into this game-accurate, just absolute nightmare of a custom plush. And yes, I know a lot of you keep saying in the comments, the eyes do follow you. Look at that. Ooh, spooky. Ooh! This plush was so hard to make that I had to get help from my friend Swifty Plush Productions, another FNAF plush YouTuber that does custom plushies and things like that, and he's gotten really freaking good recently. And I was like, hey Swifty, help me make a pattern for this dude's head, because I could not figure out this guy's head for the longest time. Here is the first prototype for the head. Yep, it's got no mouth, it's got no eye, well, yeah, it's got no eyes. It's just a weird fabric, mess. It's really, really bad. I essentially just made a pattern at first that was CATNAP's face shape, but when I went to stuff him and try and glue in the piece of cardboard and stuff like that, it just wasn't really working. And so I said, you know what, bye, get out of here, we're gonna try something different. And so we did. For 4 days straight, I tried something different and tried to make CATNAP at least 5 times. And then I discovered the wonderful world of crafting foam. A very similar foam to what I used on Boxy Boo. It looks like this. You can buy it in big like sheet paper style type things at like Joann's and Michael's and stuff. I got it at Michael's, and it just comes in like this big sheet and you just cut it out. And so basically what I did is I used these patterns. Yes, I made everything on paper beforehand. I will be putting up as many pictures as I can, guys, just to kind of show the design process, and then also you can check out my DIY short that I made on making this guy. But I used all these different pieces. So like this was the back of the head, this was the little cheek piece, and then you have like the mouth and then the top of the mouth. Now what was special about these is this is what I was actually using to put on the foam, trace it out, cut it out, and then glue it together. And I would glue it all together. So I cut out all these pieces and I glue it together. Here's a picture up on the screen. And I made the mold for the face, essentially. So if you look, you can see how, let me see if I can get it for you guys. You can see how the back is plushy and the front is this hard, like, let me get audio. That's me flicking it, okay? It's a hard foam, so this face is all just a mold. And so essentially, that allowed me to take a really hard pattern to try and get right. That probably would have taken me weeks to just get this face shape really quick. And then all I did after that was I traced out the fabric and then just glued it on. Like you can literally see, this is just the size of fabric I use. I cut out the purple fabric that I was using, the minky, and then I just glued it onto the face in these different spots. This isn't the exact pattern I used. I modified it a little bit, but you get the point. Actually, this might be the exact one I used. But yeah, so I just wrapped it around like that, and then this was obviously just a straight line curved into like an arch. And that's how I did the face. And for the ears, it was just a very simple three-piece pattern with a foam insert for the ear to keep it with that flat shape in the front, but the poofy back, which I think looks really, really good. And the eyes are literally just white felt with Sharpie drawn in. I really tried to find something plastic or something I could use for the eye, but I couldn't find anything, so I just went with the classic felt method. And the nose is black leather. If you are curious, I just found some scrap leather at a local fabric store near me, and I used the black leather and made the nose like that. Now the head took me around 5 days to get right and to make. And then I was like, oh, okay, I got the head done. Now the body is going to be really easy, and I'm just gonna zoom through it. But boy, I was really wrong. The body is definitely not something I just breezed through. It was actually really, really complicated. So for the body, I knew the general shape of what I wanted. I didn't know if I was gonna add the spines since it is a plushie. I ended up adding them in the end. But I knew the general shape that I needed to do, and I could have gotten the pattern better. I will say this isn't the best pattern I could make, but I could have gotten the pattern better if I had more time. But I have a prototype of the body that I can show you. Now, I was running out of this fabric that I was using for the head since I didn't realize I'd be restarting on the head so many times. So the head, neck, and body are all the same fabric, and the tail and limbs are actually a different color fabric. If you can tell, there's a very, very, very slight difference. It's literally a shade off, and I thought it would be a lot more noticeable than it actually is, but there's a very, very slight difference. But it ended up turning out really well. But when I made the body prototype, I didn't actually have that this new fabric yet because I couldn't find it anywhere. So I made it with this darker fabric that I crafted his feet with. And this was the original body prototype. As you can see, it's far too small. It looks like a spore body. If you know what spore is, then you're a G. And yeah, it just doesn't work. It's very, very tiny. And so I upscaled it. And here is the pattern. We have the front of the torso and the little spine pieces are spikes because when you sew things together they get a lot more rounded, and so you can see that. This is that front piece. You can see the line, the little seam in the pattern here. So if you compare it, yeah, this seems really big and then it turns into this really small little scrunch down thing. Size is really a problem when you're working with minky fabrics like this, because when you actually sew them together, they get so rounded and so compressed, and they also stretch out by the stuffing you put in there. So it's really hard. So there was multiple times in this build where I had to redo an entire pattern and then re-sew it all together, to the point where I was like, okay, I need to use a sewing machine. I don't have enough time to do all this with hand sewing, which I usually hand sew. So luckily, my brother had a sewing machine and I went over to his place and sewed this up. But the body, after about 3 or 4 attempts, I got the body and then attached the head. The neck is super easy. It's literally just one long piece of fabric sewed together and then connected to the head. And then all these little individual threads, I originally was going to use black, what is it called, embroidery thread, but it wouldn't pull through. I was having a really, really hard time just pulling the needle through the fabric and having the thread come all the way through, because it was so thick. The Minky just wasn't allowing it to push through. My needle might have also not been sharp enough, but so I just ended up cutting really, really thin pieces of black felt and gluing them with a hot glue gun, trying to use as little glue as I can so you can't really see them, and then I just glued them together after I sewed on the legs and stuff like that. But yeah, the body, the pattern is very, very, very simple, and it turned out really well. And I could make a better pattern if I remade CATNAP, which I am never going to do. But this could have been better, but I'm happy with how it turned out. Now, before we move on to the legs, I want to take you guys under here and show you the underside of CATNAP. That wasn't supposed to sound weird. Anyways, this is the moon. I just used this fabric over here, this weird gold fabric that I found at Hobby Lobby, and I just glued two pieces of it together, and then glued it onto this what's it called, zipper. And so I found this zipper at a local fabric store. They had like a bunch of different ones. They also had ones with a silver zipper, which I wish I would have gotten because that would have been actually more accurate to CATNAP, but this is the one I picked up, and so I just ended up using it. All I did, it was like probably this long, and so I just cut it, and then I glued these side pieces here to the fabric. Hopefully, what I was hoping is that I could still unzip this, but it looks like something got glued along the way, so I can't really unzip it without really forcing it, which is unfortunate. So what I did is just use Sharpie and colored this part in black, this little opening, to kind of show that this 3D dimensions, like it opens up and stuff. If I really wanted to, I could have sewn this into the pattern and actually made this thing open up and had a little insert and everything like that to hide things in there, but we didn't have time for that. Okay, so the tail is just this very simple pattern. It's got these two little humps at the end because this just folds in half, and then you sew down this line with the sewing machine. Obviously, do not hand sew this. This will take utterly forever to hand sew. So I just use the sewing machine. And then to get the stuffing all the way down in this tail, because I couldn't just like stuff it in with my fingers like I normally would with everything else, I had to use a broomstick and just I would take little, because you couldn't overfill this too much, or else the tail would literally, oh, don't fall over, Catnap, or else the tail would literally just be straight and stiff and look really weird. And so you had to stuff just little pockets of stuffing at a time. And so I would pick out little pockets of stuffing, put it in there, stick the broomstick down, get it all the way to the end, and that's why you see these gaps where there's no stuffing. These are all just little balls of stuffing throughout the tail, which gives it, sorry, I don't know what gets it means, which gives it this organic floppiness to it. And so it was self-explanatory. I've never done this before, but experimenting with it, it worked out really well, and it just gives it this nice floppiness, this nice organic tail. Like if this was a real cat, this is how their tail would flop, right? Because that's how that stuff works, right? Anyways, on the back here, I also did the what is it, the black felt for the tail. And I know, guys, there's actually supposed to be the stitching on this side of his neck as well, but I use him a lot like this in the videos, and so I didn't want this stuff, like, comes off relatively easily if you wear it a lot, if you do this a lot, and so I didn't want like it to be all messed up and stuff, so I just decided to leave that out. And it's not important. You never really see the back of his head a whole ton, so it's really not important. Originally for the feet, I was just going to cut out a bunch of pieces of fabric and then sew them together and then have like these toes and then do like the whole toes, and then I kind of crunched the numbers and I realized that I would literally have to cut out 32 separate pieces of fabric, sew them all together, and then sew them together again, and then also sew them onto the foot. And I was like, that would actually take like 4 days. So I didn't want to do, even with a sewing machine, I did not want to do that. And so I was trying to find any sort of alternative to get around this. And I came to a really good one, as you can see. This did not take long at all, probably took about 3 or 4 hours. I have this foot pattern. It's not the exact foot pattern I used. So this is the one it is the one I used. However, so the foam I was talking about earlier for the face, I also used for the feet. That gives it these flat bottoms. And so I cut out and stacked 2 pieces of foam per foot. So it was just 2 pieces of these guys stacked on top of each other. And then I realized I don't want the toes attached. And so I went and cut them all off after gluing them together. So that's where you get this shape from. If you're not looking at the toes, that's where you just get this kind of rounded square shape from. And then for the toes, I actually used a new method that I've been using recently. Not the toes specifically, but I call it fold and glue. But it's very, very simple. Essentially, this is what it is. You take a piece of fabric, you have like a big long strip of it, and then you place hot glue, you fold it, you place more hot glue, you fold it, and you just keep doing it, and you kind of like rolling it up like a fruit roll up, but you're gluing it every time. And so what that does is makes a super thick piece of fabric all glued together. And from there, you can take your fabric scissors and shape it. And so what I did is I would just make these little rectangles, and then I would cut the end corners off, making this spike shape. As you can see, it's kind of hard to see, making this little spike shape. So imagine this is a rectangle, and then I would just take scissors and cut this part off, leaving all these little corners. And now, normally that would be, you know, all the claws, and then I'd have to do the 16 other toes. However, I found and I'm really proud of myself for finding this little method, but I found a really easy way to fix that problem. You take these toes, and then you just wrap them with this purple fabric. And so under this is just this black felt wrapped. That's all it is. And it makes it look really good because it gives it that definition, so you can see that it looks like an actual toe nail, because the nail is the skin. The nail is coming out of the skin. I'm trying to explain it. without being a biologist. But the nail actually comes out of the skin, and so not only was it just a really fast method and worked, but it actually looks better and makes more sense than just sewing it all together. And the feet are flat, which is the most important part. I was considering adding wires in this guy, but I just didn't have time to go out and buy them, and to be honest, he's big enough and has his own center of balance where he literally doesn't need it. He stands and poses extremely well without any wires whatsoever. And for the feet, after you glue those two pieces of foam together, you just trace out fabric. You put it down on fabric, and then you trace out the fabric around it, like probably leave a half an inch, and then cut out, and then you want to just glue it onto the sides right here. These aren't sewing seams, these are glue seams. So these are two pieces of fabric glued onto the same piece of foam, and then the top one, before you finish gluing it, you leave a little hole in the back, you stuff it. So that's why this part's squishy, and I wanted to do that because I've tried obviously it would look really bad if it was just a flat foot, but it just makes it really easy to sew this leg on, because if this fabric was glued down to the surface of this foam, then I would not be able to sew it. It'd be like trying to stick a freaking needle through hot glue and foam and stuff. That wouldn't be a fun time, and also it wouldn't be durable. It would break the foam after a while. It's just not a fun time. And so it's a win-win. You get a new little method by stuffing it in there, and it's really easy to sew on. And so that's the feet. Altogether, the feet was probably the most tedious part, even though the head or face took the longest. The feet were just really annoying. I knew what I needed to do. I knew how I wanted to do it. It just was the process of folding and folding and folding and cutting and cutting and cutting. I literally had, like, I'm not even joking, I had 16 of these long slivers of purple fabric just laying there, and it was literally like a stack of money, like dollar bills, like this thick of this fabric, just a stack this thick that I was just gonna use to wrap around all these toes. And it came out really well, but it was not easy. Anyways, guys, I'm really excited to see your CATNAP plushies if you're able to follow along with this tutorial. Again, I'm talking to editing Sly Pie right now. Hopefully I left as many images of the creation process as I could to give you guys the best description of how I made this guy, since I wasn't using cameras the whole time. It just simply wasn't possible, guys. This build probably took over 100 hours. I was working about 10 to 12 hours a day on this guy, except for like a select couple days like Valentine's Day and stuff where I was able to take a break. But holy crap, this guy took absolutely ages to work on. I was originally gonna make Dog Day and everyone else. I was lucky I was even able to make Mr. Light, because this dude took absolutely forever, but I think it was worth every last second because you guys are utterly eating all this content up that this guy has been in, and I've been getting tons of likes on Instagram. Check out my Instagram if you haven't already. I update a lot more frequently on there than my YouTube for things like this, but you guys have been loving this guy, and so I just wanted to really deliver, and I feel like I did that really well. This has to be one of the best plushies I have ever made, probably next to Amalgamation. It also looks really cool next to Boxy Boo. Boxy Boo is way too big. He's not to scale. He should be significantly smaller, but he looks really cool next to Boxy Boo. And now I have two Poppy Playtime customs that Mob Entertainment needs to see. If you haven't already, please repost CATNAP on Instagram or Twitter or something and tag Mob. I want them to see this. I tried to get them to see Boxy Boo, but they never answered. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you tag me on YouTube, Instagram, whatever social, Discord, whatever, when you make your own CATNAP plushie, because I would love to see your guys' recreations of my plushie. And also just your CATNAP plushies in general. I know there's been some really creative other YouTubers making CATNAP as well, like Shape Dudes. I saw his CATNAP, which was amazing. And I just want to see all of your guys' customs, because I am loving Poppy Playtime right now. I really enjoyed Chapter 3, and I cannot wait for Chapter 4. Please, Mob Entertainment, please upgrade Project Playtime. Just literally add CATNAP and revert it back to the first update, because it was so fun when it first came out. I don't know what you guys did to the game, but it's not fun anymore. Well, I actually know exactly what they did, but please just stop ruining Project Playtime. Anyway, guys, Again, like the video and consider subscribing. Comment down below if you made it this far in the video. Comment this emoji, and I will see you guys in the next video. This weekend for part 3 of the Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 series, the finale, the final episode, the CATNAP boss fight. I will see you guys there for that. Hope you guys did enjoy this video, and I will catch you next time. Later!
All I wanna do is to put my arms around you and watch these moments fall back.